That you can just go through.
Oh, I could look that with the slides. No pen, no button, staff folder.
Do you have your folder, Diane?
It's all there.
I opened it up at home and I took it all out because I didn't want to carry it heavy. It's all here. Well, lucky for me.
Okay. We're missing two folks, but we're hoping that Matt might show up. We know Bob's not here, but let's go ahead and have the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, I didn't make a motion to open the meeting.
That's all right.
Motion to open the meeting? We already opened it? Motion? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on to the agenda. Recommend a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Patty?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The first action item we have, we addressed at our last meeting. We learned about the construction of the garden hut and got some very nice, interesting pictures of it and heard all about it over in the Union Pleasant, what do you call it, the green? We'll call it the green, is that what it is?
It's a living garden.
Right by the
Living
living garden,
garden.
yeah,
Living
living garden. And so I think everybody's had a chance to go over the information. People have any further questions about it? Anybody on the board have further questions that we need to answer? No? Okay. Well, then we have a recommended motion that the Board of Education of the Hamburg Central School District hereby approve of the construction of the garden hut to be located next to the Beginning Garden on Pleasant Avenue across from Union Pleasant Elementary School. The cost of construction of the garden hut, as well as its maintenance costs, is the responsibility of the Seats of Living Education, or SOL. Can I have such a motion?
So. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Welcome, garden hut.
Congratulations.
We're very excited. It's a look almost garden barn.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's, when will this happen?
As soon as this goes to the State Education Department, we receive our number. And then from there, it takes Erie BOCES 3 weeks to build it, and they'll have it up in a day. So,
Wonderful.
while they're pending.
And you'll let us know so we can see it
We
roll in?
will, we will.
And we're gonna have a ribbon cutting, so
Have a
we'll
ribbon
invite
cutting and
everyone.
hopefully some family event in June, which would be a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's very exciting.
With healthy veggies, of course.
Yeah.
More press.
Okay. The next action item we have is a capital project service and support resolution. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education of the Hamburg Central School District hereby approve, and then we have quite an elaborate outline here, but I should go on to the resolution part. Is that reasonable?
And once you read that, have a motion in a second, I'll have Rick explain just what it is that we're doing, so you have a clear understanding. This is in my update, but just for a clear understanding.
Okay, so now therefore be it resolved that this Board of Education hereby determines that standardization and the purchase or acquisition of telephone equipment and or related instruments and equipment to allow compatibility with systems that are supported and serviced by Erie One BOCES under the terms of the VoIP COSER, so that any new or replacement telephone equipment being installed within any district, location, or building can be fully integrated and coordinated with Erie One BOCES is appropriate for the reasons specified in this resolution, and directs that any bid specification and or request for proposals shall require all responses thereto must conform to the terms of this resolution. So going back, I would like to have a recommended motion that we approve of this resolution. Motion?
Motion.
A second?
Second.
Rick, do what?
Shorter than these multiple paragraphs, it basically is setting us up for long-range planning for any servicing on our new phone system that will be carried out through our capital project, is that service be serviced by BOCES, so we get 8 back on it. That's really the short version.
And that the phone system therefore be compatible or be purchased through BOCES?
It will be, the company, the construction firm that actually carries out that through the bid process will have to conform to BOCES standards. So we'll be purchasing our hardware through the capital project, but this is then for the service agreement that would then service our phones for multiple years thereafter.
Any questions from anybody on the board? No? Can we go ahead and vote on that motion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on from there, we have a refunding resolution. This has been going back and forth. We'll have a recommended motion, then we'll give it back to you, Barb, to do a little quick explanation. The recommended motion is that the official refunding bond resolution dated February 28, 2012 is approved by the Hamburg Central School District Board of Education for the issuance and sale by the district of refunding bonds in the amount not to exceed $4,800,000. Motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Can we toss it back to you just to
Sure.
let folks know a little bit?
The refunding resolution, basically, the refunding resolution started out to be a tax exempt issue where we had pretty significant savings. Then when we started to get into the process and a verification agent made the determination that it was no longer eligible to be sold as a non-taxable issue because of some complicated taxable implications. Well, so they gave us this guidance and we decided to proceed anyway, so you passed a resolution to do a taxable issue where the savings was still there, but it wasn't as good, but we want to save money any way we can, so we decided to proceed. Well, a few days after we did that, they called us back and they said, look, we changed our mind. We determined that we made a mistake, and that they really are eligible to be sold again as a non-taxable issue. But in order to now have you sell it as a non-taxable issue, now the board has to authorize it again, because the language is slightly different in the resolution from a taxable to a non-taxable issue, so
But this way we end up saving more
more
money.
money. So it's worth
That's the
coming
important
back
thing.
again and
Good.
asking you to say the same thing almost all over again to save more money.
All in favor?
Can I just ask
Oh,
one
I'm sorry, go ahead.
question?
Certainly, I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay. Now, this is a bond from 2002, so we're still paying from, this is still 20 years ago?
There are, it's 5 years left to pay on it, 4 or 5 years, so we're just refunding
Just
the little
asking how
tab.
much, yeah, okay.
So that's, we would have had to pay, we didn't extend the life of the borrowing at all, we're just refunding actually the amount of time that was left.
And this needs to be a roll call vote?
Yes.
A roll call vote. Holly?
Aye, yes.
Diane?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Patty?
Yes.
Joan? Yes. That's our group. Okay. And beyond that, I believe we're going on to a budget discussion,
Yes.
near and dear to our hearts.
Yes. What we're trying to look at tonight is a couple of different things. Probably most important will be coming toward the end of the presentation that we have, and Barb will be reviewing our maximum levy limit. So give you the tax levy limit, and then the maximum levy limit, including the exclusions that can be added back in. That's an important number because that will lead us in terms of reducing the budget gap. And it will inform the board in terms of what we can raise on the levy and generate some discussion in terms of the amount that is in terms of percentages and dollars, and then where we want to go from there in terms of the levy. We're going to be reviewing some of the reductions we reviewed with the board at a previous meeting. Numbers have been clarified with positions that perhaps were vacant or retirements that will occur based on some of the support staff positions that we have in place. So the numbers have been revised a little bit, and then you'll see a total reduction of over $1.6 million from that phase 1 reductions. We'll be able to talk about a budget gap, but what I also wanted to show the board this evening is where we are and where we stand with the various programs that are offered through the district. I don't know if we've ever had a real clear picture in terms of the offerings. We've had the business department present to the board, we've had the health department present to the board in various presentations, the art department did one, but we've really never provided a comprehensive overview of the program that we have. So we're going to try to do that tonight, show you the program that we have, also show you what the requirements from the state education department are from Part 100, and then that can generate some further dialogue in terms of where we need to go. Keep in mind we have a budget session scheduled for next week, March 6th, a week from today. During that time, we have some activity happening in the district from a negotiation standpoint that hopefully will be able to bring you some further news that will assist in lowering and reducing the budget gap in terms of the difference between our expenditures and revenues there. So tonight, again, overview of programs, show you where our reductions are, and then the tax levy limit, the maximum allowable tax levy limit we'll review with you as well. I'm going to have Barb start with the presentation, review the numbers and reductions we've made, and then I'll move into the area in terms of our program review, and then Barb will finalize it, finish up with the tax levy limit information. Okay, Barb?
Okay, thanks. We wanted to start out just speaking a little bit about our worst case scenario when we started out was a rollover budget. What we felt our deficit would be based on the information we had would be somewhere in the neighborhood of a little over $3.5 million. So that's the number that we started with. We've worked continuously with throughout the budget season. If you recollect from I think it may have been our last meeting, we showed you that the way it's calculated at this point, a 1% increase in the tax levy brings us an additional $304,750,000. The district would need to increase the levy by approximately 11.7% to close the budget deficit for the budget gap of the 3.568972. What we now know is that the estimates that we were speaking about and provided to you back in November are pretty accurate. TRS's contribution rate settled in at 11.84. We were thinking it was going to come in maybe closer to 12.5. We were working with the number 12%, but it looks like it's going to come in a hair under, so that's good news. Contract negotiations are mitigating salary increases. And one of the other things that we are still waiting for, because unfortunately the timing is not so great with the health insurance piece, is what the actual increase will come in at. We should know relatively soon, but we're still projecting it at 8.5%, which seemingly it might be a little conservative, but we're hoping that it doesn't come in any greater than that. As you know, our state aid increases this year were approximately $475,000. Due completely to reimbursement aid. There was no change in foundation aid. Nationally, our federal title grants remain constant. Budget strategies, they're kind of basic at this point. You can reduce your spending. It's just like at home. You can reduce your spending. You can go get more money. In our case, you can increase your property tax levy, or you can utilize district fund balance. As you probably recollect from previous meetings, we don't have a lot of fund balance. We're not one of those districts where we've stashed away a lot of cash over the years that we can utilize. The comptroller tends to like to lead everybody to believe that all districts have loads of stashed away cash to use to offset some of these losses, and that's not the case for many districts, and that doesn't include us. I passed out on a legal size document tonight, a little bit more information on how I looked at our projected revenue budget. You've seen this slide in the past. I've changed it a little bit to reflect where our estimated revenue we believe is going to come in at. These will be the numbers that we're going to proceed with unless some significant information changes, which I don't see that happening. So I did want to go over just a little bit with you. Obviously, I don't want to belabor line by line, but what I've done here is provide the 11-12 budget the way that it was budgeted, and comparing that to the 12-13 budget. It's not a comparison of where we think the 11-12 budget is going to end up. It's a comparison of what was actually budgeted for this fiscal year. So you can see that there was our payments in lieu of property tax, that's under other tax items. We are budgeting for more in pilots for 12-13 than was budgeted for in 11-12. That's because there was some understatement of revenues in that line. There was an overpayment in the preceding fiscal year, so that meant in 11-12 we were going to receive less money. That doesn't mean we had this huge increase. It just means there was a little massaging of the numbers done because of the way a payment had been received. Otherwise, you would see that would be pretty similar. We did take a look at our non-property taxes, otherwise known as sales tax. We did increase that slightly. Sales tax is up, everybody's probably heard that. We're hoping that it'll continue that way throughout the rest of the fiscal year, assuming it probably will. We are projecting a slight increase in the neighborhood of $50,000 in that line. Charges for services are pretty consistent. We did reallocate maybe the way that you see them. Wanted to try to make it a little more clear on maybe what the line actually is. If you have any questions as I go along, wondering what might actually be in that line, please feel free to ask me and I'll try to point that out to you.
Let me ask them the foster children. When we have foster children who go to our school system, there's actually money that we get from the state or something for them?
Well, what we do is, we get billed and we bill other districts. So any of the
Oh,
kids
I
that
see.
we provide service to, so it's,
Their home district pays us for the
right.
kid to come to school and out of school.
And the same thing goes for health and wellness. Basically, if we have kids that are in the private schools that we're providing healthcare services for, we bill them, they bill us. Some people win, some people lose. It usually all kind of comes out the same, but that is what that's for. Use of money and property, this is a real disappointing line. We are not going to get our $31,000 that we had hoped for as in 2401, which is interest and earnings. We're thinking we're probably gonna come in closer to 10 grand. Interest is really almost non-existent. Don't see that changing next year, so we are budgeting for less. If you're thinking, oh, what about all that money we borrowed that's sitting in the bank, that's great thinking, but it's not in the general fund. So that's in the capital fund, so the money that we're gonna make on our on our borrowing for our capital project that we haven't, say, expended yet, we borrowed money we haven't really spent yet. We are earning interest on it, but it doesn't go to the general fund. It's too bad, it would be helpful. Miscellaneous, you'll see another decrease there. Refund of prior year expenditures from BOCES, we expect to be about the same because our BOCES budget has remained relatively flat or consistent over the past few years, so the refunds are probably going to be about the same. What we do anticipate to change is the refund of prior year's expenses. That's a couple different things, but that's one of the things that does include our, say, workers' comp reimbursement and other areas. So it's sort of a double-edged sword because you don't want great reimbursement because that means you've had great expense, but on the other hand, when you do budget for it as a revenue, you wanna make sure that you're budgeting something that's realistic. I don't think we're gonna make our 145, we're probably gonna come in closer to 100. So next year's budget is gonna reflect where we think we're gonna end up. State aid is relatively consistent from last year. Like I said, you can see that foundation aid has remained completely flat, same as last year, same as the year before that. All the reimbursement aids do fluctuate a little bit based on what we've expended in the previous year. So overall, you do see that our state aid is up a little bit. Our federal aid, you can see that the Education Jobs Fund money, there's nothing there for next year. And we do budget for $50,000 for Medicaid, which is very unreliable. I'm not sure if I really wanted to leave it there, but we decided to. And Medicaid reimbursement is iffy at best, So our total revenues this year that we're projecting, and like I said, one thing everybody has to remember, these are projections. Even our state aid is a projection. That's why if you look at the runs, they always say estimated or projected aid is $23,603,338. Last year it was $24,600. We do show on here appropriated fund balance to offset the tax levy at $1.7 million. Again, that's something we still have to determine if we're going to utilize, what number that's going to be this year. And last year was 1.7. The year before that, I understand it was 1.25, I think. So, but we are just leaving that in place for the time being and showing that as a revenue. Therefore, if you take our total budget, which is the number in parentheses, now that $58 million is the number that the superintendent and I decided to utilize for this. That is the number that the budget would be if we kept with only the 1.6 and change reductions that we're going to speak about tonight. So it seemed like a relevant number to use. So the reductions that we're going to speak about tonight, that the superintendent calls phase 1 reductions, would leave us with a total budget of $58,006,090. The resulting difference, it's basic math, the difference is what you don't have, the difference is the levy. The levy would be $32,702,752, which represents a 7.3% increase over this year. That's really all I have at this point to discuss about the revenue piece of the budget. I'll go into the rest of what's on here when we get further into the presentation. Did anybody have any questions before I march on any of the revenues or what any of them might mean? No? Okay. Expenditure reductions, of course, is the other piece of the puzzle when you're trying to balance the budget. Of course, what we need to do is, preserve the core programs here at Hamburg. Our presentation is going to include reductions that can take place where enrollment is declining, where there's no impact on the program. We're going to prioritize program and service reductions where enrollment is not the issue, because you also have to take a look, once you get past declining enrollment, you have to then take a look at prioritizing programs. Consideration of reductions is program in areas but not eliminating the entire program. Curriculum review will determine how programs will respond to the reform agenda and that what is going to be taught for the next 3 to 5 years. The whole plan here is that we are not going to just indiscriminately cut programs in personnel. The district cannot cut $3.5 million in spending. Expenditure reductions require budget analysis, impact on program and staff, and efficiency. Long-term budget planning, including a fund balance plan, is critical to maintaining district programs and services, and these are all things that we've discussed in the past. Let's go. Assumptions that we have regarding the current program budget. We've discussed these items too, so I won't spend too much time on the slide. State aid increase of approximately $475,000. Our aid formulas for the expense-driven costs remain the same. That is one thing that we haven't really talked about a lot, but aid formulas, they can change aid formulas for any of the aid. And at this point, and it seems pretty clear that they're not going to change them, but they're going to keep consistent the way that they derive the expense-driven or the reimbursement aids. Education Jobs Fund money, that's gone, 1.168, that's a huge hole in our budget. I should have updated this, the sales tax revenue remains the same. That's not true, we did up at $50,000. Our expenses, as we discussed, salary increase would be $860,000 just in salary, $450,000 in TRS and ERS increases, health insurance premium increases, $440,000. We're still working on our BOCES cost increases. BOCES decided to implement new software this year in order to be more efficient, and it's not working real well. They're having their own frustrations with it, so we still don't have the BOCES budget completely put together because they're having software problems. Special ed increases, we're looking at an increase in the neighborhood of $134,000. These slides, again, I think you've seen, we tried to put together in sort of a matrix of the different areas that we have looked at and the estimated reduction. So these are 3 areas in BOCES, although they're not a lot of money. There are certainly areas we think we can reduce without impacting the way we do business. Again, 3 more areas of BOCES that we're going to make a reduction in. We really don't utilize the printing service. The behavior management consultant, with Colleen's direction, she feels as though that we can still utilize this individual, but perhaps reduce the service to 0.5. The next group of slides, the matrix group, reflect actual staff reductions. The idea here is to try to ensure that we look at all areas, not just teaching staff. So these areas on this first slide represent buildings and grounds reductions, 2 FTE for cleaning, 1 FTE labor, 1 FTE maintenance mechanic. So We might end up switching around the way this actually works out, depending upon the way seniority and people bumping back really affects their position. But these are generally the areas and the amounts that we anticipate to reduce and to see savings in. The same holds true here. Now we're going to move into staffing, classroom teachers, elementary, 10 FTE, $550,000. Remember that this does include not only payroll, but that we factored in benefits into these numbers. Middle school, 3 FTE, $165,000. High school, 5 FTE, $275,000. Now moving into teacher aide and clerical, 4 FTE for $80,000. There's a little bit of shifting with reduction in certain buildings, but the overall FTE would be, we believe, 4. Clerical is a district-wide total FTE of 6 for $210,000 realized savings. Central office, looking at potentially a title change for the position of the assistant superintendent to perhaps a director position. If in fact that does take place with the sharing of the position potentially with another district, we think we may save around $50,000. Still unknown, as the superintendent's indicated, the impact of the estimated retirements. There are still continuing negotiations and talks with the district and the HTA trying to work out something. The bond refunding is showing a $25,000 savings. It's kind of conservative. We're hoping that we're going to realize something more in the neighborhood of $35,000 to $40,000 savings this fiscal year, and the same every other year for the next 4 years after this year. But we always try to project conservatively. We won't know until we price. Athletics, with a total overall reduction of 10% in the budget, would give us an estimated savings of $45,000. Central office, the photographer position, that would be a $35,000 savings, looking at reduction in extracurricular activities between the middle school and the high school at $20,000. Special education, district-wide 1 FTE, again, there's the same number we use for all of our teaching staff, $55,000. We are working with our transportation companies to derive the cost savings of all of our late runs, the 5:30 late run. We don't have numbers for that yet, but we are working on it. So this slide basically just takes all the preceding slides, puts them into a total slide by building area, total number of teacher reductions and or support staff reductions, if there are any, or on the bottom right below total is other, if it was not related particularly to people, but other areas. So if all of those reductions total the 1.684150 that we're talking about, that's the number that I used to reduce the rollover budget to get to the number that's on the revenue budget that I provided to you, giving us the total budget amount of $58,006,090. The budget deficit, after the reduction minus the allowable levy limit, is 1.266752. The tax levy above the cap needed to close the deficit would be the difference of 1.25 million. The total tax levy needed to close the total deficit, 32,269,422. We'll further talk about the implications of the tax levy limit plus exemptions at the end of the presentation.
Thanks, Barb.
Sure.
Again, part of what I want to talk about this evening is our program. And I think, one of the realizations that we've seen is that with a budget gap of $3.5 million, it's not going to be reduced by either all expenditures or decrease in expenditures or an increase in revenue. There has to be a balance. We've provided about $1.7 million in reductions so far. And I think based on the reductions we've had over the last couple of years, and next week you'll see kind of that progression in terms of what's happened over the last couple of years in terms of reductions in staff, you'll be able to see that we're starting to impact programs, and we're impacting areas that have been of value to us for a long time, and at some point, decisions are going to have to be made in terms of whether or not we're going to continue to reduce expenditures, or we're going to push the levy a little bit higher in terms of increasing revenues. These are the areas that I put together in terms of, you know, what we value as a community, as a district, and it kind of a generalization of issues here, but you know, we do have high expectations. We are producing excellent results at all levels. We've maintained high standards through difficult times, and part of what you're not seeing in the budget yet on the expenditure side is some of the increases or areas that we may have to increase the budget in order to sustain the reform agenda from New York State. For instance, third-party assessments. They're a requirement under the new law, and we're going to have to purchase third-party assessments. We're reviewing that to see if we can work with other districts, but that's going to be an additional cost. In terms of moving through the reform agenda, the impact on curriculum, we see a need to bring back department chairs at the middle school and the high school especially. They need to be able to work through the curriculum issues with staff in each department, so that is going to be an additional cost as well. So there are some issues pushing us to increase budget items. It's not always going to be a decrease in the budget, and that's why you're going to see some of the numbers fluctuate as we move through this process. These are the areas that I've identified as, you know, our program and service areas. Again, it's not just all curriculum, but it's curriculum and our service areas. And you can see the wide variety of academic programs we have mainly on the left-hand side, and our service areas mainly on the right-hand side. CIA is curriculum instruction and assessment.
Thanks.
It's not a covert operation. And here is our core academic program, and what we're trying to do here is also reflect where we stand moving into the 12-13 budget regarding some issues. So the elementary class size, we've talked about kindergarten and first grade keeping it less than or equal to 22, and 2 through 5 less than or equal to 25. We're pushing our secondary courses to remain below 30. A continuation of our advanced placement courses, continuation of the accelerated classes at the middle school. Again, LOAD, we offer Latin, Spanish, and French, a continuation of those areas. English as a second language has to be, that's a mandated program for us. Keep in mind, we're under the second year of our balanced literacy program and our writing program. We have elementary science kits we purchase every year at the elementary level for their science curriculum. Textbooks and consumables, the consumables continue to grow. Those are the pieces that we have to, whether it's art, whether you're looking at science, etc. There are certain items that we need to replace on an annual basis. Equipment and supplies, we need to update and replace those areas. Teacher aides in both, mainly the special education program, but we do have some general education and computer aids. And the DEAR is the Drop Everything and Read program that we sustain at our schools as well. I'm looking at trying to get some specific information, and just again to give you the breadth and depth of some of our programs. You can see what we have in the special classes. Now the upper part there is our self-contained classes, 6 to 1 plus 1, 12 to 1 plus 1, and 15 to 1 plus 1. We offer resource room, consultant teaching, both direct and indirect instruction, and integrated co-teaching in K through 5. You're going to see the integrated co-teaching K through 5, the consultant teacher in the 6 through 12 areas. We offer speech, hearing, and vision as special education services. We have private school placements. Those were explained particularly in lieu of transportation, where we're transporting students to private locations, and the tuition that's involved with those. Our BOCES services and students involved with BOCES programs. Now, we also host BOCES classrooms in the district, and when you host a classroom in the district, you do receive a payment as like a rental payment from BOCES in terms of hosting that classroom. But keep in mind that class does carry some additional responsibilities for the district, mainly servicing the students in art, music, and physical education as well. So there are responsibilities the districts have to go along with that. Personal and classroom aids in special education, OT and PT, adaptive physical education, the assistive technology now, and we're finding that coming out more and more in terms of assisting students with special needs learning, and we're being very successful with it, but again, it does come at a bit of price. Counseling services, our IEP Direct, that's the individual education plan for special needs students, our Committee on Special Education meetings, and also Medicaid. So a very comprehensive system. We provide the continuum of services here in the district, and from the results we've seen, we provide a very, very good program at all levels. Looking at some of the specific areas, when you get into it, and we've talked about art before, but just to break it down, where we have the elementary schools, approximately 1 day per week, 40 to 45 minutes. At the middle school, it's 10 weeks per grade level, so it's a total middle school art program of 30 weeks. And at the high school, the requirement is 1 unit in visual or performing arts for a high school student. You can see all of our art electives on the right-hand side, including a couple of AP classes at the end. You'll see those repeated in our AP slide as well. The middle school also offers studio art, which is a high school course as well. So that's something additional for advanced students at the middle school level. The music program, when we talk about the benefits of our music program, you can see again how comprehensive it is. And I haven't completed the middle school piece, but the middle school does have band at each level as well. So under the general music category, in elementary, 2 days per week, approximately 30 minutes per time. Middle school, 10 weeks per grade level again, 30-week session for middle school in music. But keep in mind, last year, if you recall, we, in order to reduce some staff, we allowed students participating in chorus, orchestra, and band at the middle school to have that count as their general music requirement. So there was a reduction in music staff at the middle school based on allowing that to qualify and give them credit for those courses. And then at the high school course, we have a wide variety of music programs in terms of lesson, orchestra, band, etc., and many levels of those as well. We participate in the Erie County as well as the New York State Music Association. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the various levels that we have. And again, my apologies for not filling in the middle school, but we do have band at that level as well. Elementary, we start off with grades 4 and 5. I think at the high school, you've seen the concert, symphonic bands, and as well as the wind ensemble. Our elementary schools have orchestra. Our elementary schools also have chorus. And if you look at, and I'm sorry, our middle school, for whatever reason, my middle school piece got left out there. I'll fix that for you. And then at the high school, you see the chorus activities that we have at the high school. So again, a very extensive program, and I think it's a program that Hamburg certainly prides itself on. Unfortunately, at our previous board meeting, we were unable to go to the event that they had at the Wesleyan Church, I believe it was, for the string quartet. So we're out in the community for our music program, and again, extremely valuable. Under our student support services, these are the areas that we provide additional support to students through the K through 12 area. Counselors at each level, you can see 5 at the high school, 4 at the middle school, 2.6 FTE at the elementary level. 5 school psychologists, 4 social workers. We have librarians in each school, but we do split a librarian between Boston Valley and Charlotte. The Learning Center is at the high school that has additional staff in there to meet students' need, whether it's academic support services or even AP services for students that are looking to improve there. Nurses in each building, speech improvement services, our family support center, and the parent-child connection. All important student support services for both individual students as well as families in the district. Under the intervention portion of our student support system, we look at academic intervention. That occurs at all levels. That's a state mandate. We require academic intervention for students who score less than proficiency on their New York State assessments and Regents exams. We have reading specialists in each of our buildings. We have our Read 180 program at the middle school. that is mainly directed at our special needs students for improving their reading skills, math specialists in our elementary schools. The summer school program, we did have that previously at all levels. As you know, that's been dropped throughout the district. However, our high school, we do send students to Frontier High School for summer school should they wish to go there. And our student support team, our response intervention team, again, to provide intervention services and to make sure all of our students are given a proper program and are successful. Getting into our high school, I've tried to take a look at all areas of the high school where we have electives. And you can see some of the areas will have more electives than others. One of the reasons for that is because of Regents requirements. So some of our areas, such as ELA, is going to be taken up with a lot of Regents requirements in social studies, whereas you see the business has more electives in it, you know, for itself. So as you go through there, you can see again a significant number of electives, a significant of opportunities for all of our students. In reviewing enrollment in these areas, we do find ourselves having a pretty full enrollment for all of these electives that are offered. These are the AP courses that are offered. Stats, Calculus, A, B, and BC, Studio Art, Art History, ELA 11 and 12, Spanish, Biology, Chemistry, Physics, European History, US History, and World History. All great opportunities for kids. Again, good participation. In some cases, very, very good participation. Classes are always full. In other cases, it's going to be in the 20 to 25 range.
We have music theory too, don't we?
I don't know if I had AP Music Theory this year or not.
Maybe not this year, maybe it's every other year. Is it every other year? Depends on enrollment.
Yeah, enrollment. I'll check on that and see if we do have that.
Yes.
I did not see that listed this year. Health and physical education. Again, we had our health program give you an overview of their program at our last board meeting. But again, I wanted to show you just where we are in terms of the requirements. And again, health is a requirement at the elementary levels. Not always taught by a health teacher, but I think you saw the value in terms of a health teacher at the elementary level for us. Middle school, we provide health 10 weeks in both grades 6 and 7. At the high school, you see the health 20 weeks for grades 9 and 10. The life skills program, again, is a board requirement. That's a 20-week program. And then we have electives of stress management and nutrition, both 20-week electives for the health program.
Steve, but
Yes.
9 and 10, is it 10 weeks at each, or is it 20 weeks at each?
Typical 20 weeks at one or the
At
other
one or the
level.
other, 9 or
Yes.
10.
Yes,
So 20 weeks total,
yes,
and we don't offer it at all in eighth, right? Just
Right.
because is that
Correct.
how-
Not now.
yep.
We did, but I think.
That was an area that was reduced through the budget reductions last year to this year. Under PE, you see the various elements there, approximately two times per week at 30 minutes each time for K through 3, 45 minutes 2 times per week at the intermediate level, 1 period every other day at the high school and middle school level, and then at the high school we also have electives of the lifeguard, personal performance, and goal sports. So again, very comprehensive program. Many of the districts support similar programs at the PE level. Our athletics, just to let you know, just 18 modified sports, 15 JV sports, and 28 varsity sports that are offered to our students. We have a director of health, PE, and athletics. Through our contests and practices, we offer athletic care trainers. We have transportation costs and official costs that go along with that athletics budget as well. When you continue on, equipment is, again, updating equipment every year on an annual basis. I know many teams participate in the purchase of their own uniforms, but there are other equipment issues as well, particularly with some of the sports like football. We have our wellness center. Wellness center the equipment there was through a grant. And we continue to utilize the wellness center on a daily basis. Timekeepers, scorers, supervision at our athletic contests, and then we have intramurals at the elementary and middle school level. I believe we also have them at the high school level, right? A few things at the high school level as well. Technology, just to take a look at this is our technology system that we have, not technology program or curriculum in the schools. As you know, last year, through the reduction of our Director of Technology, we combined human resources and technology. So we have an Assistant Superintendent of HR and Technology. It's a 1.0, it's really not a 1.0 FTE for technology, but that's the position. Our kind of technicians or specialists, the decision specialist, we have one person there, support specialist 2, and we have 1 microcomputer repair technicians, and then throughout our buildings we have 9 computer aides who assist in the computer labs. That is extremely low staffing from a technology standpoint for a school district. Under the contractual areas, and these are the areas that we purchase mainly through BOCES in terms of operating our system. So the eSchool system is our student management system that provides all student data, assessment data, attendance data, etc. It keeps all of our information on students there. The finance system, the WinCap finance system, is what Barb uses to maintain budget, do state aid, etc. And the CapPro piece under that is for capital projects. We also have IEP Direct. That's Individualized Education Plan. That's a system that allows us to write IEPs for students and keep those electronically. We also have Counseling Direct and Medicaid Direct, and to spell that, Medicaid Direct as well. Continuing on with contractual on the right-hand side, we did talk briefly about the READ 180 program. That's at the middle school. Global Connect is our communication system that's district-wide now. Lotus Notes is our email system that we have. School Wires is our website. We have the data warehouse through BOCES that provides us and allows us to look at student achievement data and use that for our school improvement plans. ASOP is our substitute calling system. That's an automated calling system for subs that teachers and other staff can call into and have a substitute there. Applicant Tracker is, again, a program through BOCES that allows candidates to apply online for positions that are vacant in the district. And again, through our instructional program, various hardware and software areas that occur in our instructional programs. Again, you can see a very comprehensive area in technology, and one of the areas that you're going to see grow in the future is our portable devices, and you're going to see an area under software in particular where our apps are going to grow in terms of the expenditures. And that's something we're seeing with our special needs student, but we also expect that to grow throughout the district as we start to improve our technology. Extracurricular activities, again, intramurals at middle school, elementary school, and at the high school. We also have clubs at each level. So additional activities for students. For intramurals, we do have a late bus for students at the elementary level as well. Under professional development, Southtown Center, we do have, in certain cases, teachers who would be on special assignment for certain areas. Right now, we don't have any specified for special assignments, but we do provide stipends for individuals to provide certain services. One would be our Article 7 committee, where a teacher's assigned to facilitate that committee will receive a stipend for that. Other areas, BOCES is providing significant service to us for the reform agenda, including the professional evaluation plans, student learning objectives, all aspects of really the race to the top requirements will be provided under BOCES. If you recall, we did receive a minimum amount, I think it was about $70,000 for a 4-year period of time. We've committed to BOCES to provide those services, so we're getting more for our money than we could do on our own. Transportation and facilities, you did have the information from Barb at our last meeting on transportation. I didn't want to go through everything on that, but again, contracted services with Fisher Bus and Hamburg School Car. We're reviewing both of those services to see where reductions can be made. From a facility standpoint, again, I think you see some, great work out of our staff, which is, I guess, stretched to the limits, as you probably most know. It's not we're not overstaffed in the maintenance area at all. Administration, again, you're showing the central office administration we have there, superintendent, 2 assistant superintendents, curriculum instruction assessment, human resources technology, director, administrative services, in student services, and a coordinator of public relations. Keep in mind with the assistant superintendent positions, previously there were 2 assistant superintendents and 1 associate superintendent. When Mr. Kerr resigned from the district, remember those duties were given to Greg at one point. Last year, Mary Ellen Monaco resigned. We took the human resources away from Greg and posted that position, but we gave Greg instruction and assessor instruction and curriculum as well. So he's had the full central office experience for us. Again, the levels of the various administrations at the high school, principals and assistant principals, as well as the middle school and elementary. Now, for the mandated program, and this comes right out of SED. If you go to their website, 100.3, we have 100.4 for the other. This is, if you're running a program, this is what you're required to provide in terms of services. So what you're going to see here are the minimum requirements that the state has set in place. You can see from our review, we're offering much more than the minimum requirements at all of our levels. So this is K through 6. These are the requirements for grades 7 and 8. And here are the requirements for the high school diploma. Continuing in terms of the mandated services, again at the high school, this is the high school level, and then you see the academic intervention and what districts are required to do on a district-wide basis. I'm going to turn it back over to Barb for the fund balance piece, but again, my hope for just illustrating the program there is so that you can see kind of the breadth and depth of our program. Part of what we're going to have to look at, depending on where we fall at the end of the evening, is okay, how do we again achieve